Greetings, everybody, and welcome once more to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back into Golarion once more and learn of another ancestry in the Pathfinder world? Yes, today, I, your host, your guide, your emperor, Cantus Narathan Dracovin, I'm going to introduce you to angels. So if you are ready to come and join me and learn about angels in Golarion, you need to only take my hand as I lead us there through time, space, and dimensions to Golarion. But I will require something of you before we leave. Hey, are you subscribed to this channel? If so, great. If not, what are you doing? Quickly do that. It helps out. And let me know what you think about angels in the comments below, as yeah, concepts of good and evil still kind of exist, but not as cut and dry in Pathfinder remaster project. So it's just going to talk about something that is very celestial, good-coded. Anyway, let's get going. Golarion awaits once more. We've arrived! Now we are in Golarion. We will be talking about areas outside of Golarion. And we must, of course, start with the very basics. Books, sources, places that you can look and learn more about the various angels that there are. Now, I've pointed out here 4 different books that I think are very important. The first 2, of course, are both the original Bestiary and Monster Core, both of being the 2nd edition ones, because they paint the kind of up-to-date picture, and though there are differences between them, they're mostly the same. Then Chronicles of the Righteous and Planar Adventures from older books do give us much more of a picture after that. And again, some of these will often sometimes have stats for the angels too, so that's a thing we can't forget. Angels! And here I am giving us a nice picture of a Balasi, a confessor angel. So they are messengers, warriors of divine abilities. They have choirs based on abilities and purviews. They are said to be one of the first creations of the gods and assist many righteous creators throughout the cosmos. Though that's kind of the basic look at them. The fact is that angels nowadays not really connected with the divine anymore. Basically, those mortals whose souls would end up in the celestial planes nowadays, those upper planes, the Nirvana, Heaven, Elysium, some of them just ascend to angelhood nowadays. So, yeah, mortals ascend nowadays, much more than the original angels which were created. So, not that you couldn't have ancient angels from before, but yes. Now, while not all of them, like this one here, one of the weakest angels, the Cassidian Archive Angel, most angels tend to look humanoid in some kind, have large celestial wings that are on their backs. Very noticeable. Humanoid form, wings, that kind of thing. They stand out that way, but are a unique look to them. And again, we'll kind of talk about where they are at that. But yes, androgynous, winged humanoids, usually 2 or 4 sets of feathery wings. There are some that can turn invisible, some that are shapeshifters, some that are a little different. So they're not technically all one group, but there is this kind of various things of, you know, very feathered wings, white feathered wings, certain forms that do stand out for them. Something that you can kind of say there. Now we get to be introduced to yet another of our angel groups, our choral, the choir angel. We'll talk about types of angels and other types of angels. So, when we talk about angels, we have to take a little bit step back, because there will be a topic today that I'm not going to talk about related to angels, and that is their demigod status creatures. They're those that are at the top of them. Similar to, you know, the lords of hell, with the devil, the top tier devils, the top tier demons. Basically, angels have top tier demigods, imperial lords. But imperial lords are shared between archons, azatas, angels, and other celestial plane dwellers. So basically, all the celestial planes, their top tier, their imperial lords, are shared between everything there. You might come from an angel, but when you become imperial lords are inferior lords. So that's why I'll do a video on them on their own. But that's why we're not going to necessarily talk about the top-tier demigod status angels today. I'm looking at you, Sarenrae, who ascended to proper godhood from being an inferior lord. Looking at you, though. Looking at you. Anyway. So, when we talk about now, the majority of angels that are unaffiliated with various deities are on Nirvana, the plane of virtue and enlightenment. Those that are with deities will be in those domains. Regardless, though, angels tend to be messengers posed with magical auras. They aid their allies. They're connected with various groups there too. That's entire things. They basically represent interpretations of the righteousness of the universe, messengers in many ways. And yeah, we'll talk about that there are some that are kind of gone now. But yes, the souls of mortals have become angels now. Cats are important, the hierarchy. Now, the choirs still exist, and the 3 choirs are something that we can talk about, but we don't know as much about the choirs nowadays as we did in the past. What do I mean by the angelic choirs and kind of changes that have happened to that? Basically, we know the choirs still exist, but because a bunch of angels don't exist in Pathfinder anymore because of the remaster project, it kind of becomes a little difficult to basically define those as well. I'm looking at a group that, doesn't exist anymore, like something like Solars. They don't exist anymore. Monadic Divas. Other Celestials. Basically, we generally with 3 choirs. Those that command the lesser ones, those that are kind of the middle group, and a third composed of another group that were kind of all various good aligned from out the areas there, too. But they don't exist anymore. Not the same way. Not as they used to. So, it's an interesting little fact with that one, that the choirs still exist, but also don't. Not the same. So, yeah. Choirs will be divided into abilities and purviews. Keep that in mind. Again, we'll have to wait for the remaster project to redefine those choirs, possibly. They haven't in both Monster or Monster Core 2 as of yet. So, and they kind of were defined earlier editions with, what we kind of knew. So we can kind of generalized look at the 3 different choirs that were before. Are there 3? Are there more? Don't know anymore, unfortunately. Let's talk about the Celestial Planes and Golarion and where angels are. Because we really have to talk about the Celestial Planes, the 3 main planes that, well, also can be referred to as the upper planes. They're both called the same things, and they do mean the same thing. Celestial planes, upper planes, they're both, terms for it. This is Nirvana, Heaven, and Elysium. And again, as I've kind of talked about here, Nirvana tends to be the home of angels. As much as you can find them of Heaven and Elysium, Nirvana is where you'll find most of them. The sheer fact is, that's where a lot of the... Even if I raise as to an angel in heaven, if I was not, I was a celestial soul, able to rise up, if I'm not still connected with a deity, I might just go to Nirvana. I might not stay there. It's where most unaligned go, the majority of them, unless you're with a god. Easy as that. But it's also the thing that angels don't normally live in the celestial planes. They're found everywhere in the universe. Yes, that's kind of their home base, where the majority of them can be found when you find them, but that's where you're easily finding them. Otherwise, they're just everywhere. Maybe you're aiding a spellcaster somewhere on Golarion. Maybe you're crusading against fiends in hell, or the Outer Rifts, somewhere else in between. Maybe you're aiding some kind of good people of, some deity you serve somewhere, or helping out some people that you feel you need assistance. The sheer fact is, as much as the celestial planes are important, and we can talk about the 3 of them and dive into the depths of the 3 of them, we don't need to. in a lot of ways. And there's a picture of Elysium. It's the picture I was able to find best of one of the planes. So High Elysium here. Basically some adventurers showing up in Elysium and getting in a fight with a dragon. Adventurers. Anyway. But yes. So it's an interesting fact that angels are just all over the place. Coming from the celestial planes, mostly found unaligned in Nirvana and aligned with other divine realms in any of the celestial realms, or just out there doing their job. Let's talk types. So, at the time of this video, Monster Core 1 and Monster Core 2 are out. I'm going to go through the basics of the 8 angels introduced there, but there are others. Others that aren't there. Others that don't exist anymore. The monadic and monvonic divas, the planetar, the solar, are all gone. They don't exist anymore. They aren't proper in angels anymore. Now, does this mean they don't exist in some form? Hell, some of the angels we're going to talk about kind of take some of the places of these. Others don't. So sort of like, again, with the separation from Dungeons & Dragons to Pathfinder, we just have a whole new host of angels. I'm going to talk about 8 of them, generally. Just go over some basics. And yes, this is the Tabella, the emissary angel. I've showed off all the Monster Core images, though Monster Core 2 is out. I'm going to do a copy. This is saying the archive angel, the weakest of them, the little messengers that serve usually more powerful angels or spirit guides. The choral, the singers that are in the halls of Nirvana that chant sacred hymns or various pious chants, usually formed from souls of bards that were very righteous, joy in music, and basically spread peace and joy through music and holy incantations. The Balis, confessor angels that assist mortals ensnared in moral dilemmas or crises of faith, guide people to their own decisions rather than demanding obedience, which is very interesting. But they kind of believe that, you know, causing someone to make their choice and giving them that choice can lead to more powerful results in that, you know. They're guiding angels. And of course, then, the Tabella, the emissary angels, the elite messengers of celestial realms that serve deities or celestial armies that deliver messages, perform reconnaissance, provide support, and aid. Those are the ones from Monster Core. From Monster Core 2, we were introduced to the Kuribiu, the sentinel angel, guardians of temples and holy sites that are kind of look like humanoid children, but have bodies made of stone almost, so they can disguise as statues, sometimes as animals too. Of course, the Tenon, the brocade angel, the artisans and dancers, celestial artisans and elegant dancers that serve as Nirvana's attendants. They weave divine garments from clouds, frost, and various things. They descend from Nirvana versus catastrophic wars and disasters to soothe the suffering. So yes. And they also tend to become the ones that are most entangled with romantic relations with mortals. Yeah. They have returned to heaven at some point in time, but they are the ones that, with their basically, as artists, dancers, very emotional ones that are trying to soothe people that get into some kind of problems. Yeah, they do tend to end up in mortal relationships. The Srama, the Renouncer angels, liberate the penitent and ease the suffering. Yes, they're drawn from compassionate, enlightened mortal souls and often more perceptive of the pains of mortal existence. And then, of course, the Ninkonda, hunter angels, were signs of redemption. They were once honorable mortals that fell to wickedness, performed terrible atrocities that the Menanka Ninkonda hunt down. Because they don't slay these quarries, they encourage changes of hearts, redemption. They reflect the sinners of those and their souls and reflections of those. And if you don't They might still face off against you, but they're attempting to have you that chance because Encondas are occasionally born from the souls of a righteous mortal who sought to continue their work of redeeming others in the afterlife. But also, some basically can be less scrupulous. Centuries or millennia of perseverance of souls seeking true redemption could become an Enconda. Interestingly enough. But there you go. There's angels. In a nutshell. They aren't super deep, but they really don't need to be. They're an interesting group that is one of the main celestial creatures that are out there. When we talk about them, they're kind of synonymous with celestials in a lot of ways. It's not that there aren't other types, as I mentioned. The Archons and Agathians. I'll talk about them in the future. The other celestials. But these are the ones that kind of filled various, these Odas, Archons, Agathians, all the other groups that are celestials out there. I will, in the future, talk about them. But, yeah, angels have a purpose. Messengers, hosts, connections. They are the most likely celestial to, in fact, connect up with mortals. In many ways. Their jobs take them to the mortal realm probably a lot more than most celestials. That's it. That's the easiest way to say it. They're the ones that are probably going to show up and either help you or at least give you information, guidance, little bits of the piece there. That's why we see angels. That's why they're there. That's why they're interesting. And that's why we got to talk about them a little bit. And we'll talk about the celestial realms at some point in time. We'll talk about the imperial lords at some point in time. Expect those in the future. But for now, let's leave it there and call it a day. I hope you enjoyed diving into angels. Please make sure to check out the rest of my things, whether you're joining me over on Twitch live, where I record things like this, have shows like Fall of Amonsmell, my Pathfinder 2nd Edition live play, Wednesdays at 8, or discussing tabletop, Saturdays at 6, my kind of talk show podcasty thing. I do have some other stuff over on tabletop, over on Twitch, but that's all my tabletop stuff. You can join for just chatting, gaming, all that kind of stuff. But, yep, all that table stuff ends up on the YouTube side of things, where I assume most of you are at over on YouTube there. Hey, YouTube, always glad that they're there. Hey, make sure you subscribe. Make sure it helps out a lot. And let me know what you think of angels below. Are they just very MacGuffin-y? Are they something maybe that, like, you could definitely have opposed you? I think there are stories that would have it, but those tend to be more villainous stories. I think they are things that, yeah, I can get in a fight with an angel, but I'm not going to normally. And they are very story-driven in many ways. And I think that's the interesting thing about them and kind of where you have to place angels. It's just a interesting thing overall to kind of talk about. Angels. Hope you enjoy. Anyway, until the next time, I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.